Good afternoon. We are at Bole Preparatory School in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for what I am sure will be an exciting debate as part of events to launch the EFA Global Monetary Report 2013-2014. We're joined here by an exciting panel. But before I introduce the panel, let me just remind you of some of the shocking, I think, details that were revealed in today's report. We all know that we have a global education crisis. I always say that in 2000, with the EFA goals and the MDGs, world leaders made a commitment to young people and to every child that by 2015 we'll have every child in school. Of course, we're 57 million off that mark. And today we learned that even worse, we're 250 million off the mark of people who can even read a basic sentence. That's shocking. What's even more shocking is that even the resources that are available are not reaching the ones that need them the most. So part of the crisis that we have, I said in an op-ed that was released today, that a society is judged by how it treats its weakest, its littlest members, its most marginalized. And by that count, of course, we're not doing very well. The children, particularly girls in rural areas, we learned today, it will take them, by some estimate, until 2086 before they catch up with the richest boys in similar circumstances. All of those, of course, should shock the conscience of the world and should make us all want to do something about that. And today we have here the people who are actually in the trenches, the real professionals, the people who know what needs to be done, the teachers. And today's report was about the power of teachers and the need that we have for not only teachers in classrooms, but good quality teachers who will deliver on the promise of education for all. On my left is a distinguished panel of amazing teachers and educators. And first is Madam Mariam Khalik, who is Malala Yousafzai's teacher. I think she wears that proudly as somebody who was taught Malala, and she's from the Swat Valley of Pakistan. Next to her is Madam Esna Chapomba, who is a teacher educator herself from Malawi. We also have Madam Margaret Ocheng, who's a deputy head teacher in Kibera's second largest primary school. We also have from here in Ethiopia, Mr. Yohannes Mulat, who is from Benishangul, who's a teacher out there. And finally, we have Mr. Taye Bogale, who is a male teacher here at the Bole School. I said we have the experts here, and we do have the experts here, students themselves. And on my right, first, we have Sarah Mushe, who is from Bole High School here. So, next to Sarah is Meseret. Meseret is also from here, Meseret Derebe. And then we also have Samira Tilehun, who comes from Benishangul. And finally, we have a male student, Fraser Yilma, who is as well from Bole High School. So please join me in welcoming them all. Our first question will go to a teacher, Miriam. First of all, thanks today for sharing your very inspirational story. You talked about some of the challenges that you face and that you have experienced, particularly in terms of educating girls. Tell us a little bit more about why it's important, why this issue is so important for you and in your career and in your life, why we're here today, and why education, particularly for girls in tough circumstances, is important.
Thank you very much. Well, I would say that many underdeveloped countries and backward societies have the highest illiteracy rate. But in our region, the situation is very alarming, very dangerous, and unaffordable. Because if we do not reach to all the deprived children living in rural areas, they won't be sitting idle, because we have some militant organizations who are ready to recruit them. So we should, I think we should educate both girls and boys to protect them from violence and terrorism. And we should give them packs of books, because if we don't give them packs of books, they will be given suicide jackets by the terrorists. The reason is that if there is no peace, there is no education at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miriam. And thanks particularly for reminding us as well about the importance of investing in education as a means to preventing violent conflicts in the future. I think there's an op-ed today by Mr. Gordon Brown on CNN I just saw this morning that actually makes that point as well. Let's turn over to our students here. And I'm going to start with you, Sarah. Why do you think education, particularly for girls, is so important?
Thank you. And education is important for girls, but not only for girls. It's for all, because education is the key for development, particularly for developing country. It is very, very important, and we should educate girls, because as I see, the illiteracy rates girls less than boys, and we have to educate girls. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe you should pass it over to Samira as well. Samira, do you want to add something to that? Why is it important? Why is education important?
It's important because girls are parts of the society. So when we teach girls and children,
Will you speak up a little bit?
okay, it is useful for the development of the country. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Education is important because girls are part of the society and it's for the development of all. So thanks for those messages. Let's turn back to the teachers. There are many challenges we had today that teachers face to make sure that particularly the most disadvantaged learn. According to the report, for instance, there are huge teacher shortages in some countries, living large class sizes in slums and rural areas. I talked today about my own personal story and how I went to school. In most of my classes, there were at least 100 of us in public schools in Sierra Leone. Margaret, you talked about your experience in Kibera out there. Tell us about how you think these large class sizes affect your efforts to provide quality education to the students that you have.
Thank you very much. My school, Kibera Primary School, is in Kibera, where it's one of the largest slums in the world. Because of large families, the classes are very big. And our school has 54% girls and 46% boys. There is inclusive education where children with special needs also learn in our school. And then children who have been rehabilitated also come to our school. Now that is good. Now the problem comes in now providing quality education. There's a shortage of staff whereby we have only 27, and a teacher takes a class size of about 85 to 100 children. Myself, I'm a deputy head teacher, and because of shortage of staff, I'm also a class teacher, and my class has 85 children. So you can imagine, together with the other managerial duties, I have to teach my subjects. It becomes quite a challenge because we lack that one-to-one contact with the child. And remember, in education, a child learns one day's contact with the teacher. So when they start kind of learning, the fast learners who also pick up very fast, they become bored because even that fast learner needs that teacher contact. The worst now comes to the weaker learners. Those ones are they either remain docile in class or they are in class, they don't learn. And when it comes to reading, these children don't read. And they come up to they progress into upper classes without knowing how to read. And you can imagine the gap is normally wide in lower primary, and as they progress towards the upper primary, the gap widens. So even those children who had little knowledge of reading, as they come up, even the little that they knew disappears. So it creates a learning gap. When they reach class 8, these learners graduate out as illiterate graduates. So you can imagine, I've been in that school for 10 years and graduating children who are illiterate. And imagine if you implement 100% curriculum, that is, I've finished the syllabus. It does not match what comes out. Curriculum implemented is not equal to curriculum attained. graduate, their pass is usually around 44 or 45%. So you can see these people can go out there, the youth, when they go out there, when they have not yet learned well, they end up joining the gangs that are within Kibera slums. But those few who progress and do well, do well. So it is a humble appeal to our government that that ratio of 1:40 should be brought back to schools, because what we are doing is not actually justice to the children. And imagine this children who have got special needs. They come to school, teachers are not able to cater for their individual needs. So a child with a HI, VI, mentally challenged, they're just in school just because they have to be in school. It's like they're just growing in school. We have no choice because of the numbers. When it comes to marking of books, for feedback, not easy. And that's why even the first learners cannot maximize their potential. They just reach maybe around 70%. But if we had one-to-one contact, then the first learners could be up to maybe 90 or 100%. The weak learners would be brought up. So that's our major challenge. The passion we have for education, the passion I have for children, I'm not able to do the best I can to provide quality education.
Wow, thank you. Margaret says we're actually failing the children. Teachers have the passion, but because of the class sizes, because of the lack of quality education in these circumstances, they are graduating illiterate children. We should all think about that. I know, Samira, in your class in Benishangul, you've said that sometimes you have over 50 students. Tell us what's the experience? How does the learning environment, how is that affected? When you have so many students in a class?
As you know, our region climate is so hot, and the class are very old and there is no ventilator. Due to this, the students become bored and they become tired, so they didn't attend the class. It's critical, and there will be no enough computer. They can't get enough knowledge from the teachers because of much students. They can't ask the question for the teachers. They can't get the chance to ask the question to the teachers, so it's difficult.
Just physically as well. Samira is saying that it's really uncomfortable with the heat and all the challenges in these classrooms. Let's move on a little bit. One of the challenges that we talked about today, and that's been reflected in the report, is that it is even more difficult to get teachers to go to the most disadvantaged areas. That part of the problem is that either there's not enough incentive, or sometimes, I think one of our teachers was telling me last night, teachers see it as a punishment when they are sent to the most rural areas. Esnat, you work as a teacher, administrator, and you're trying to promote education in all regions in your country. How do we tackle that problem? How do we ensure that the children that need the teachers the most are getting good quality teachers in the most rural areas, in the most remote areas?
Thank you very much. It's really true that children who need teachers the most don't have those teachers. In Malawi, the government right now is trying as much as possible to recruit teachers from the same localities. And these teachers are trained through the open distance learning, which means they go to teacher training college during holidays, and they are available to the children when they need them. However, we are talking about quality teachers here. And this open distance learning is a crash program. And being a crash program, I personally feel that these teachers are not fully equipped with the skills that will help teach the children well. Therefore, what I think is that, yes, we can deploy teachers from the very localities where the learners are, but I think governments should also send teachers there by attracting them with some incentives or with other conditions. For example, they could deliberately raise salaries for teachers who teach in rural areas, because honestly, teachers in rural areas spend even more than those in suburban areas, because with the little they have to travel back to cities or small towns to purchase everything they need at the end of the month. So they need more income. Not only that, they need to be motivated by recognition of their performance through promotions. Not only that, I also think that governments should also create what we call rural growth centers, so that these services teachers go for in towns, they are right at their localities, like bringing hospitals, bringing safe water, bringing all the other social amenities closer to the rural areas, so that teachers don't feel like a punishment teaching in such settings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask actually Mariam to also respond to that question.
Well, I think that the most of the population lives in rural areas, and the children living in rural areas they are very much ignored. Teachers are the main pillars of an educational infrastructure, and I think this is the most alarming issue, to ensure quality teachers for the children who live in rural areas. So I think that there should be check and balance system from the education department, who will do regular inspections of the flunk schools. The punctual and efficient teachers should be rewarded. Number two, I would say that there should be parents-teacher association in rural areas, so that the local communities may directly involve and they may know how their children are working. Thirdly, there should be incentives and I must say hardship allowance for such teachers, so that they may stay in their jobs. But I would also say that if I am asked to do service in such an area, I would ensure that my children gets admitted in a good school. If my child is ill, he should have a hospital where he should be cured. So not only an educational institution should be there should be all other institutions which are required for a community and a society, and it cannot be on a huge level. We should ensure that the teacher and the people living in that particular area are facilitated with the basic rights, so that the place may be a better place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me turn to you, Ato Johannes. I mean, you are a teacher in Benishangul, so you know a little bit more about, tell us maybe first about your own personal story. Why did you left Addis, you left all the other areas, and you chose to go teach there? Maybe that will tell us a little bit more about how to get teachers like you to move into those regions.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. As you said, I am from Benishangul Gumuz Benishangul region state. So the reason why I went there, so it's a long story, because I graduated from GMR Teachers College. So the Oromia Education Bureau called us here to assign. So when I came here, so while I was waiting for the sign, I saw a vacancy. It says in the Benishangul regional state. So if you go there, it says you don't have education opportunities. That means service training, it says. So at that time, I don't know where Benishangul is by the time. So I asked one of my friends, where is Benishangul? So, then I asked him, yeah, I know Benishangul, so shall we go? So what I said. Then he said, no, better we wait until that sign here, the Oromia, because since we learned it in Jima, college, teachers college, so at that time we were expected to assign in Oromia region. But since the vacancy is there, it was very interesting, you say, then we went there. Then I started there teaching. Of course, what is promised by the time was, because being there, I could learn my first degree, and also I could learn my second degree because of going there. So I could get these opportunities being there in Benishangul. Of course, Benishangul Gumuz is one of the hottest area in Ethiopia. Sometimes the temperature exceeds more than 40 degrees centigrades. So, it's very difficult, as you say, in order to tackle the problem, that in order to get good teachers there. So the regional government, what is the regional government doing there is nowadays is, so teachers are given incentives. For example, in Benishangul Gumuz region state, teachers about 20 up to 30% teachers are paid that beyond their regular salary, just in order to initiate teachers there. The other is, as I told you so far, so teachers are given their opportunity of education as in service training. The other is, for example, the other opportunity that teacher gets there, that means, for example, if you work 1 year in a remotest disadvantaged area there in Benishangul, so if you want to transfer somewhere, so working 1 year is considered as working 2 years. So this helps teacher to transfer from a rural disadvantaged area to the place where teacher are considered to be advantaged area. So these are some of the solutions that our government there is working to tackle problems of getting disadvantaged in the rural areas. That means for teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've heard that it can be done. If you put in place the right mechanisms, you can actually get really good, inspired teachers in the most remote areas and where they're needed the most. Let's turn again to our students here. The reports today talked about some of the challenges that children, particularly living in poor circumstances in remote areas, the most marginalized, face in accessing education. Our Ethiopian, so let me start with you, Mesret, and then I'll go over to you, sir. Tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you've experienced or that you know about of yourself and girls like you in this context that you guys face.
Well, thank you so much for your chance. And I came from Minilik School, and Minilik School is actually a very nice governmental school than the others. I haven't faced any of these challenges that I can mention right now, but I know some people that I know that have faced this kind of problems. Actually, we are 6 in our family, my brother and sisters, and I came from the countryside, and I'm the only girl who got the chance to come to Addis Ababa and learn. And I live with my relative, but I'm living a very good life here, and the education is still good for me. But my sister, I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and none of them are actually educated. I think that's because my parents are not aware of this education system, and they both are not learned, so they don't expect their children to go to school and then be educated, so they don't send them to school. And even though they want to send them to school, the education place or the school is so far, so that they cannot walk on foot. There's no transportation because it's a very rural area, and also the girls are mostly facing the early marriage around my place that I used to live. So they are obligated to get married while they are actually little kids. So that is also a very high-rated problem that I know. So these problems are making it very difficult for them to go to school. That's all I know, but I believe there are so many problems from the place far from where I live.
Thank you. Let's ask Fraser as well.
Thank you for giving me the chance also. And me neither, I haven't faced any of these challenges. I grew up here in Addis. I also born in Addis. But I know some of my friends were so poor, and they dropped out school since they were 6th grade. We were 6th grade, because they couldn't learn an empty stomach. Their family was so poor. Some of them were orphans, and they couldn't learn because they have to work and live their life first. And that's all I know.
A number of really important issues. I mean, you've talked about the most rural girls, the threat of early marriage. You've talked about the fact that if your parents are educated, actually they're much more likely to send you to school. They understand the benefits of education. So the things we're talking about here, the benefits of investing in education and getting particularly girls and the most disadvantaged into school, you know, the dividends are just enormous, and we lose a lot as a society when we don't do that. Let's come back to teachers. You know, in the report today, we had that it's not only important to have teachers, it's also important to provide teachers with the necessary training. I'm just curious, starting with you, Atotaye, have you been receiving any special trainings as a teacher while you've been a teacher? I mean, we heard that those trainings are oftentimes very rare. But I'm also particularly keen to hear whether you've received any particular specialized trainings to provide education to the most disadvantaged or people with disabilities and things like that. Have you received any of such trainings, and how important is that?
Okay, first, I have been teaching for the last 27 years, beginning from the primary level to the tertiary level. However, I have no any such special training to teach the disadvantaged as well as students with different disabilities. But there are some training programs that are designed by the Ministry of Education and the school as well to empower us to teach the disadvantaged students, intellectuals with disabilities, as well as special tutorial program for female students. By the way, I started my career with certificate in 1 year's training. Then I has improved to diploma program, then to first degree program, and then I joined the master's program. Anyways, with regard to special training, I have not yet received any sort of training to disadvantaged students and students with disabilities, as I mentioned earlier.
Thank you very much. Do you want to add something?
Yes, I want to say something here. But as you said, as Taye said, of course, when we were in college and university, we took a course which deals with disadvantaged and some disability. Therefore, but it's not much. That means, but we couldn't apply it in the real situation because of so many problems there. Because that's what I want to say.
Thank you. I see you want to contribute as well. Yes.
Okay, thank you. In my school, because of the large numbers, when inclusive education was introduced in our school some 3-4 years back, teachers got training from Handicap International on how to deal with these children. Now the problem comes in the type of training we are given is just basics for it's just like managing mild, moderate, but it's not so intense that we can take care of the inclusive children. Then we have training that was done by UNICEF when free education was introduced in 2003. The training is still hampered by the large classes, large numbers, and then the high workload. As I said earlier, in the administration, with the duties that in the administration and the class, you'll find that when the class is large, 85, and we have to use learner-centered approach where the children have to be very active from the start to the end. That's the only way learning can be achieved. But the large classes pose a great challenge because if I have to put them in groups, they'll be very large groups. Some children will not participate in the groups. If I make the groups smaller, I'll take a very long time to hear the reports from the groups. So it becomes a challenge. That means if I have to do that, some lessons will go unattended. Then still on the same training, we have Japan government together with Kenya, training teachers on how to teach science and mathematics, to improve science and mathematics, called SMASE.
I would be glad to say that in Malawi these days, there is school-based in-service trainings for teachers. And these are being done very frequently nowadays than before. So these in-services, they help to boost the motivation of the teachers because sometimes they're not sure what to do, how to handle children in such difficult situations, huge classes, under open classrooms, under 3 classrooms. So such challenges are discussed and solutions are found during such insets. So they are very, very helpful because they help teachers to solve their daily problems. They bring those problems to the insets and the solutions are found there from their fellow practitioners.
Well, thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to remind our audience that you'll also have a chance to ask our distinguished panel here questions. So if anything is jumping out of you right now, you want to ask a follow-up question, please be taking note of that. To my friends, one issue that the report actually tackles, which is close to my heart, is the question of teacher absenteeism. That's a management issue. Sometimes we go to classes and our teachers are not there. We go to school and the teachers are not there. So we already have a huge lot of problems. Our classes are full. Too many of us are in class. And then half of the time sometimes, I know growing up in Sierra Leone that for much of my senior secondary education, if my parents were not teachers and forcing me really, thank them, to take extra classes, our teachers barely showed up in class because they had all these private classes that were going on sometimes in school hours. Does any of you experience that, and how does that affect you? How does that affect your learning process? Does anybody want to?
Attend their class properly, and less experienced and aggressive teachers who treat the students bad. So this makes the teaching learning system go wrong, and the students may hate to come to school. And I think the teachers become careless for the students, and they didn't attend the class. Some teachers, not all, properly, yeah.
Well, I have already said most of the things that I wanted to say, but what I wanted to add is, like you said before, you were saying that the teachers actually consider it as a punishment when they're sent to rural areas to teach. So I wasn't there, but I believe this is also one of the problem for the teachers' absence from their classes, because if they don't like going there, how are they going to actually enjoy teaching the students? They will exactly hate it. So I believe that's actually the problem. While the teachers are not interested to go to that place to teach the students, then the absence also might occur. I think that's the problem also.
Thank you very much. That's quite an indictment to the teaching profession. And I know that you are all exceptional teachers, motivated and committed to doing this. When I was in Liberia once, just after the war, I remember meeting a teacher in one of the rural areas, and she told me she had to walk 2 days, 2 days to go to where she got paid. She had to wait there 4 days to get paid, and then walk back another 2 days. So that's about 2 weeks gone in a month, and that's a monthly journey. And these, you know, and I remember meeting with her, and she telling me that this was part of her challenge. But I mean, I think we just raised the whole issue of teacher absenteeism and management. Esna, this is your area of profession. How do we tackle that?
Honestly, teachers in most cases will get absent for many reasons. Like the students have already said, and yourself, in Malawi we have a similar situation. During month ends, more teachers will travel to where banks are so that they get their monthly payments. Not only that, some teachers will be absent because they engage in certain businesses so that they raise their income. So they will be absent to go to a market to sell some things. And the other problem we have is that a good number of our teachers, they joined teaching because there was nothing else for them to do. So they lack that intrinsic motivation. You know, some teachers naturally like their job, but others, they just don't like the job. Therefore, to answer your question, I would say that the in-service trainings for teachers would really help to boost the morale of such teachers. Because even though they find teaching as the last option, but they are the teachers who stay longer in service teaching our children. So the governments must find ways of helping such teachers to like their job anyway, by equipping them with the skills they need in order to teach the children. I would also add that in addition to this, though it would be unfortunate because, like I said already, the recruitment of teachers is very crucial. But because we are recruiting teachers according to the need, there are so many children out there, they need teachers. So whoever wants to teach, I mean, the system is porous. We want the numbers. We want more teachers. And in the process, we end up recruiting people who aren't supposed to be teachers. They don't like the job. So that's the major problem. But otherwise, the best solution would be recruiting the right people and training them to be teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me follow up with Margaret. You told me a really inspiring story yesterday about how you're motivating your own teachers in the slums of Kenya go to school in spite of the challenges. Tell us a little bit more about that story.
Thank you very much. With the challenges that we have at Kibera Primary School Islam children, we used to complain all the time because of the large numbers. Then one education official came and told us, yes, you complain about the large numbers, but are these God's children? Are they Kenyans? Are they people of this world that need an education? So she talked to us and made us agree that the large number is not a weakness, it is a strength in the school. So we accepted, and then we decided that's how we are going to be, accept slum children, take them as they are and give them education. The challenges are there and we struggle so much. So we live as a family in our school, which means we've said we have a problem here and we have to tackle it as a group. So being together all the time, when a teacher is absent, we tend to find out why that teacher is absent on daily basis. A teacher goes for 2 days not coming to school, we send colleagues in the evening to go and find out. So it's because of care for each other, the welfare that we have, that is what is making our teachers to love the school. By the way, with the large numbers and the workload, being in the administration, I don't have a lot of problems of walking around. I only wake up in the morning, go to school, go to my class, because teachers don't need to be pushed to go to classes. They don't need to be supervised. They move to their, and actually they amaze us because with the large numbers, teachers are not lazy. They go to their classes, they complain about the marking of books, but in a positive way. They just say, I have to do it. Some don't go for lunch. They stay up to late in the evening marking books, and they come from further, by the way. Like myself, I have to board 2 buses to my school in the morning and then going back home. Some teachers come from very far, whereby they spend some time on the road and they come a bit late. The problem of absenteeism is actually there. They don't come, or a teacher could be in the compound but not attending to classes. And children hate that. In fact, somebody asked, there was a forum, and somebody asked the children what they would like to be when they grow up. Children gave other professions. I'd like to be a lawyer, doctor. And one child said a teacher, and the whole booed at that child. Actually, it made us to go back and ask ourselves, why do these children hate teaching? Why has our profession lost value? Now that is why our biggest question now, which means we have to redeem the image of the teacher.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite an anecdote, isn't it? You ask students, who do you want to be when you grow up? It seems like the most obvious people in front of them, inspiring them, are their teachers. And I remember growing up as well in my country, they will always ask us those questions, and all of us wanted to be engineers, presidents, doctors. Not a lot of people. I mean, in my country, the joke is that teaching comes with 2 prefixes, and it's poor. So if you're a teacher, you're a poor teacher. So that's kind of like, so nobody really wants to be a kid and grow up to be poor. So, but I think that actually raises an important question. Miriam, you are a director of a now well-known school in a context where you face a lot of challenges, a lot of threats. What's the incentive? How do you attract people to the teaching profession? Because that's a problem, right?
Well, I have a very good weapon that is counseling. I counsel my teachers who I wish to come to my school, because I have earlier I have mentioned that I try to give them good incentives in order to keep them in their jobs. But what I have learned from my director, chief executive, is that counseling, and I just try to make them feel a love for the school, for the students, and I just try to make them realize that we are working for a very noble cause. That's it, honestly speaking, because we are living in an underdeveloped country, and I run a private institution, so I don't have enough financial support. I don't earn too much to give extra incentives to the teachers, but the teachers if someone if someone likes the teaching profession, they do come to this profession. This is my experience. Practically, somewhere it doesn't work, but I try to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know that today Pauline mentioned some really good examples of countries like the Gambia, where they're paying teachers 35 to 40% extra as an incentive to go to the tough areas. But I think generally the teaching profession has to be made more attractive, because as they say, the education system is only as good as the teachers in that system. Let's talk about now how the education system can actually cater for the needs of students. Let me ask the two Ethiopian teachers we have, Ioannis and Tai. What other extra support do you think students, particularly girls from rural areas, poor students, will need to thrive in the classroom?
Yes. So let me start from my practical experience there in Benishangul Gumuz. So in order to, what other support do children who come from poor background, and also, girl students. So what we did there is, therefore, students who come from poor background should not only support psychologically, but they should also be supported financially. So, for example, what we did there is, for example, let's say if we contribute $1 per month, imagine, let's say there are 100 teachers in a school, then imagine how much money we can raise. So what we did, for example, most of the time, what we did is, by the way, we are not helping all poor or poor students who can, but especially those students who are very clever and genius, but those who have no, that means supportive, then we contribute one timber or something per month. So this is one way of supporting students. So when we support them, because there are students that we know them personally, but drop out of because they don't have anything, or they don't have no one to help them, because they have no one to help them. So we are doing this in order to have them not drop out of school. Regarding girl students, so in our school, so some encouraging situation is created nowadays. That means tutorial program is prepared for girls, and also there is a gender club, that the gender club has its own library, so it's open throughout the day. So only girls there, and there are a lot of books and also computers. So only girl students go there, and also the girls have their own key. So even if there is a coordinator, teacher, but the girl students have also their own key, then at any time they can go and open it. And if they like, they can even borrow textbook and read a different book. So this is some of the support that in our school we are giving. So I hope this, to some extent, this helps students not to drop out of school. This is my experience, practical experience. Thank you.
Okay, in our school, there is a special tutorial program that is delivered for female students and individuals with poor background, particularly on Saturdays and Sundays, as well as in after-school program with selected teachers of the school, which are totally committed and dedicated for their purpose. Secondly, there is a charity club in the school, and each student from poor background has obtained more than $10 a month for at least to cover their stationaries. In addition to that, we facilitate additional working conditions for these individuals who come from low-level income. In addition to that, there are guidance and counseling officers for female students and male students who support the students and change the mental state of the students not to drop from the school. In addition, we have an arrangement of 1 to 5 students program. That means 10 top students are selected from each class, and we assign 5 students per one top student. And these students facilitate learning conditions for their classmates, particularly for the disadvantaged ones. In addition to that, there is a knowledge sharing club by which best teachers are selected from the school and they share their ample experience, as well as they try all their best to bring about attitudinal change on the students. In addition, those students who drop out from the school have their own telephone number with us, and we contact them and their family to just bring back to the school these students. And in addition, there is a parent-student teachers association which work together in collaboration to alleviate the problems associated with the low-level income. And these are some of the most important things that we undertake in this school to just cope up the the disfavored ones with the already favored ones. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know Esther wants to answer.
I'd like to share what is happening in Malawi to encourage girls to go to school. We have a program known as Primary School Improvement Plan and program, and this program has rolled out to all the primary schools in the country. So each primary school has a committee of members from the community, both mothers and fathers. Though a mother group, of course, at the beginning, it was a committee of mothers only, but to balance up according to gender issues, it's a mixture of men and women from the community around the schools. So these committees are responsible for encouraging the girl child to go to school. Nowadays, they encourage both, but the main objective of the mother group was to encourage girls to go back to school, rescuing them from early marriages, rescuing them from child labor and frequent absenteeism. So these mother groups have really helped to keep these girls in school. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we bring the curtain down and invite you to ask your questions, let me give the student the last word for this session. Now, they've just talked about some really innovative, amazing support initiatives that teachers have mentioned. But I wanted to ask you the same question. What extra support will you need, do you think? I mean, thinking back, what kind of support would you have needed, or did you enjoy that facilitated learning? Or particularly also think about the most disadvantaged, the ones that you talked about in the rural areas that you encounter every day in Benishangul. What kind of extra support do you think they will need to not only be in school, but to learn?
Thank you. And for it's psychologically. We should support by psychologically and to, as the chair says, by giving tutorial program. Extra program Sunday and Saturday.
Thank you. Nesra?
Well, like the teacher mentioned, I think what they have mentioned is a very key thing for the disadvantaged students to have a good education. But the guidance thing is also the good thing. But even though the students actually came to school, ensuring that the students are actually getting the right education or the right lesson from their teacher is actually the main point, I think. So if those students who are disadvantaged got this problem in their house, or if they face any kind of challenges while they're on their way to the school, they might be thinking about that while they're in the class. So the teacher needs to have a very good relationship with the students. Like teacher Mariam said, she counseled the teachers, but I believe it's a good thing if you counsel the students more, because they might have some kind of problem at home. So those things will bear them to listen to what the teacher is saying, and they might end up being illiterate graduates, like one of the teacher mentioned. So, and also, that's the point, and checking the teacher's ability of teaching is actually the main point. It's going to be so helpful if we actually see how the teachers are teaching them, and the administrators are responsible for this, I believe.
Okay, thank you. To be honest, in our school, the school didn't give more attention for the poor students. And I know what there is in our school, Women's Club, and there is monthly contribute money from the students, and we support by this money poor students. but there is no another support for the students, so they need more support. Especially psychologically, they need more advice, and teachers must give a tutorial class, but there is no more tutorial class, and the teachers didn't cover the portion at the end of the year. It's difficult for the students to get a good result for exam, so it's difficult.
Thank you.
In my school, I know there is a charity club, and in classes, the students collect some money and give to the teacher that is collecting the money, and we helps the children, the guys that losing some money or another thing, they get a little contribution from us. But I don't think that is enough, because the money we raise is not that enough to the students. They need more support from another charity clubs like NGOs and things like that.
Thank you. We've had that the most disadvantaged students need a lot of support, and it's not only money through charity, but I think the girls have all pointed out as well psychological support. I think that's deep. That's how I see that there's a lot of issues as well that they're encountering at home that might stop them from coming to school, and that the school system needs to be complex enough to be able to take into consideration those. And I was particularly inspired by what you said, Mesred, that they not only have to rely on the teachers, but also rely on the students, and as you know, and create that interaction between the teachers and the students to be able to understand really the needs of the classroom. Let's turn over now to you, the audience. If you have any questions, we have time for a few questions. Please put up your hand and say your name and where you're from, and then ask your question and be as brief as possible. Yeah.
I work at Ambo University as a VSO volunteer. I work in the Institute of Education, mainly with trying to educate teachers, better academic skills for teachers. I teach a lot of classes, and I also teach students. But in my spare time, I work with an NGO, local NGO. And what we have found is, what we touched very little on today, is parents. You need to support the family to be able to support the children to go to school. This NGO supports 159 children to go to school. 9 of them go to universities around Ethiopia. In Ambo, 78% of women, 15 plus, are illiterate. Over 50% of men. These kids have no home to go home to, no help at home, no books, no parents who can read and write. We run an English homework club on Saturday afternoons, but we also run adult literacy classes, because a mother who can read will send her children to school. What does the panel think about that?
My name's Emily Laurie. I'm the Global Advocacy Manager at Plan International, and we're running a global campaign called Because of My Girl, which is focusing on reaching gender equality in primary and lower secondary school around the world. My question is for the students. We were talking a lot about incentives to become a teacher, and I thought it'd be interesting to hear from the 4 of you, if any of you would like to become a teacher, and if not, what would motivate you to become a teacher?
My name is Paul Paimana. I am an education program specialist at UNESCO, liaison office. Today we are talking about teaching and learning and for achieving quality. I think that there is one component which is very important to mention, is the attitude of teachers in the relationship with girls, students, at school and out of school. What about it in your countries? Thank you.
My name's Neil. I'm from UNESCO in Paris, but a long time ago, just after I graduated, I was a volunteer teacher at a secondary school in Tanzania. And at that time, teachers had it pretty rough. Their salary didn't come very often, and they often had to take jobs in town, driving a taxi or something like that. And they would go into the classroom and write an assignment on the blackboard and then go into town and drive their taxi. And they often told me, you have to do this because you will spoil your students if you teach every class. And I just wanted, does that kind of thinking still exist in the schools around here? A lot of the girls, more girls dropped out of school than boys by far. And the most common reason that girls dropped out of school was because they fell pregnant. I don't know if that's still a problem, but at that time it finished a girl. She never was able to go back to school, and the boy was never punished. The boy always continued school, and I never thought that was fair. And I'm just wondering if you think that there are times when it's unfair for, or that girls have rules, or that the way girls are treated are not as fair as the way boys are treated.
My name is Solomon. By the way, I'm glad that I'm back to my former high school, almost after a decade. Thank you very much. By the time we were here, this school was one of the best schools in the city, the best scoring schools, and I hope it is still so. My question is to the students. How far are you dedicated to your education, especially in these days where globalization is affecting even the teaching learning system? I see students sometimes chatting in the classroom and doing this and that, especially this area is a bit, relatively speaking, developed than the rest areas. It's Bole. For those of you who come from other countries, this is a well area. Therefore, how determined are you in order to only follow the classroom teaching learning process? Thank you very much.
We'll also love to hear the teacher's view on the question around the relationship between female teachers and female students and teachers, so that dynamic in the classroom. And I think that alludes to another question, the one that Neil asked about the treatment of girls in general. And I think that's a question I would also love to hear the girls' views on, in terms of how fair the system is and how fairly you're treated. And then finally, for the teachers, it's this notion of spoiling the student. So you go to class and you just, write. Our teachers used to do that actually. They used to fill the blackboard, so like a lot of notes. So they would like copy the notes and they're gone. So you just spend a lot of time just copying that note. Does that notion still exist? And obviously, how do you feel about that? So I'll give you guys a chance to have a go at those, and you don't have to answer all of them, so just take a peek.
Okay. I'd like to answer the first question. I think that right now different organizations and government is working on educating the children. But I must say that before educating the children, we must first educate the parents. We must change their approach towards their children, and girls in particular. In my society, I have noticed that girls are married at early age, and because they give me one reason, that they don't have to do any job, so why should they get higher education? That's fine. They will go and give birth to children, and this is their life. So I think that first we should educate the teachers. We should have some counseling with them. We should have some sessions with them. At present, we have many uneducated parents. So the parents should be the first priority. If they cooperate, their children will work very smoothly. They will get education. So, and one more thing I would like to mention, that right now I'm also working with the Malala's Fund that is supporting 40 girls who comes in the category of domestic child labor. So when we were planning for this, I had a question that what if we put these children in school, what are their parents gonna do? They used to earn money, and how they will support the family. So we came to a conclusion that we should give them some stipend in order to encourage them, and they won't be having any excuse that they are sending their children to different houses for domestic labor. They have nothing to eat, obviously they have to send them. So we decided to give stipend to the parents. And now we have 40 students in my school. We are educating them. We are giving the stipends through the Malala Fund. You all know about that. So and we also take sessions with the parents. Their approach has totally changed. So education should not only be meant for children, it should also be meant for teachers, for the community, for the society. Thank you.
Thank you. Esther, you teach teachers. Do you tell them to not spoil their students?
Actually, whatever the teachers do in the field, in most cases, they are learned behaviors, that the behaviors or the culture that they find in the schools where they are. Otherwise, when they come out of college, they come out very innocent teachers, good people, ready for their job. But each school has a culture, and some teachers will go by the culture of the school, leaving notes, absenteeism. I mean, if you are not self-motivated, you can be, changed around by your friends. But otherwise, I haven't heard much about spoiling learners. No, I haven't. It's news, but
So that's good news.
yeah. Okay. I wanted to talk about the attitude of teachers about girls. In the past, we used to have teachers, both male and female, having a negative attitude towards female learners, thinking that they are dull, they are lazy. Even the cultural beliefs were teaching us that girls must get married and have babies. Not anymore, because right now even the curriculum itself has changed. There are so many case studies about girls being successful people in the community, girls being important, and there are role models made available for the girls to go on with their education. And I also wanted to say something about, and on the same, we have a say in Malawi that if you educate a boy, you educate an individual. And if you educate a girl, you educate the whole village or the whole nation, which means it's even more important for governments to invest in girls. I wanted to talk about pregnancies by girls. Even where we have such support systems for the girls to continue with their education, there are a few girls who are dropping out of school due to early pregnancies. However, the Ministry of Education in Malawi has the readmission policy. This policy gives these girls a second chance to go back to school after they have looked after their baby. Now, this policy says that both the boy responsible and the girl, they have to stay out of school for the same period of time the girl has stayed away, and they will both go back to school, so that it's a punishment for both the boys and girls. However, our system is porous. I mean, if they are taken outside from a public school, the boys will find their way into private schools. So, yeah, thank you.
Wow, okay. Yes, let's keep going.
I would like to talk about the attitude of teachers about girls. In our school, girls are many. They enroll, and we try to retain them. We are lucky, WFP, together with our government, Kenya, we have a feeding program where the girls are given food at school. At the same time, since last year, the government also accepted to give the girls sanitary towels. So what we've done in school, there's a lot of counseling to be done. I am head of the counseling group, and we have very many teachers, that is male and female. We've made the children learn that even a male teacher can help a female, because you are told by the government that there's no seclusion when it comes to handling a girl. The class teacher has to handle. So when it comes to provision of the sanitary towels, what I do is I'll just call the governors, the prefects. Nowadays, we have the governors in our country. When they come, they are distributed. There's no hiding, so that even those boys in the class know that those things are actually a need in their society, because they'll soon become fathers. The girls are supported so much. In case a girl does not come to school, other girls go for that child. Or if it is so bad that maybe the early marriage, we involve the social worker. And we have succeeded because the girls normally tell us they know a lot of what they do in the slums, so we actually get them and we bring them back to school. In case of a pregnancy, which actually it's normally there because in the slums, there's a lot of, we have vices, danger for the girls. There are very many rape cases, and even in the families, there's a lot of problems for the girls. So what happens is, when it happens, we pick up the cases, any reported case. Unfortunately, parents cover these cases if they happen at home, particularly if it is incest, they refuse to report. Or if the case is reported, they are threatened by the other families. So it becomes a big challenge, although we are doing so much to make sure that all girls come to school, we retain them and they graduate. We have formed groups where with us, the girls, we are very free. We discuss everything. I have shown them that even if you don't want me to know your name, there's a suggestion box. They put their problems inside there, and every day I open in the evening and I make sure I address the issues. We have a counseling club because the school is large, so we all do counseling to these children. We do a lot of life skills, and by the way, even our curriculum, it is a thematic approach, whereby life skill is taught sometimes as life skills, but the same skills are taught in the subjects.
Thank you very much. I think
Here in Ethiopia, most of the time, and also I'm referring there in Benishangul. So most girls, and also it is the same is true here in Addis, I think. So most girls spend much time working there at home. That means helping their parents and doing a lot of work there. But boys do not do so. For example, I personally, I am the fives of 8 families, then children. Then I have, for example, I went in the morning to school, then I came back from school, then have my lunch, then go somewhere to play. But my sister are there with my mother helping different kinds of work. So maybe girls have some burden work there. Then this, affects their performance in teaching. So to some extent, so this must be taken in consideration. Thank you.
Okay. More than half of the students in our school are females. Paradoxically, however, high achievers are males. As my brother clearly explained, the females are totally burdened by different domestic chores, and it's very cumbersome for them to cope up with their counterparts or males. In our societal setting, all the burden is totally shouldered by females, and therefore it gives free access for males to just score better results as opposed to the females. The other point that I want to mention is the amount of salary of teachers and their commitment. In our case, the salary that is paid for the teachers is extremely lesser than other civil servants in the country. To cite a classic example, out of 120 teachers in this school, in the last 4 months, more than 20 teachers left the school in need of other jobs. And there is one important joke. Supervisors entered into a class while a teacher is teaching, and he pronounced girl as girl so many times. And the supervisor asked him why he pronounced that word as girl. He responded that I cannot pronounce girl as girl because of my payment that is less than $100 immense. And really, frankly speaking, teaching is my passion. That's why I have stayed here in this work. Otherwise, the payment for the teachers is extremely minimal, and as a result, the societal attitude, as well as the attitude of the students toward this teaching profession is extremely less. And that is one of the most contributive factors for low quality of education in Ethiopia. Otherwise, Ethiopia has exhibited profound change in the political scenario, in the economic arena, in the social facets, as well as in the cultural fabric of life of our society, particularly for the last 2 decades in general, and for the past 8 consecutive years in particular. However, with regard to teachers, I can say we are totally marginalized and segregated in the society. We are living between the kitchen and the toilet of our students. Therefore, there is no respect for the teaching profession, and I teach here only because teaching is my passion. Otherwise, I cannot able to explain the deepest sorrow of teachers that are just informed for the government, to be frank and honest. Thank you.
Why don't you want to be a teacher? And what will make you want to be a teacher? What is needed to motivate not only you, but maybe your friends that will make you want to be a teacher?
To tell the truth, I don't want to be a teacher. But it's not because I hate the profession or something as that. It's just because most of our parents doesn't want us to be a teacher because they hate that profession. Even I believe if I ask one of you, from the teachers, if I ask you, what do you want your son or your daughter to be in the future, I believe you are not going to say to be a teacher, right? And that's not because teaching is a bad profession. That's because there are so many things that you guys are suffering by teaching, because of the salary, because of the problems you have. So I love teaching because even at this level, when I help my friends on maths or some other kind of subjects, I understand that subject more clearly and I can understand it well than I can just study by myself. So if I am a teacher, I believe I'm going to be a very good teacher, but I don't want to be a teacher. Shall I proceed? And the second question is, are there bad teachers, not bad, but lazy teachers in your school? I think you asked that. Yeah, they do a lot of the thing that you mentioned, like giving us assignment. That's very hard for us to finish in those time they asked us to finish. But like if they give us 2 weeks to finish that assignment, maybe it's hard to finish it at that time, and that makes it hard for us, and we might not get good grades of that, and that makes it bad result on our certificates and transcripts. So that's a bad thing. And also the notes, they are real. I'm tired of writing so many notes. It happens, but we cannot do anything about it. And I believe this program is going to tell those teachers not to do that. I think you have something to do with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Round of applause, please. On that very happy note, let me ask you to join me now in thanking our very distinguished panelists. And you'll agree with me that they've been amazing, exciting, inspirational, powerful, passionate, and determined. And I hope that they've inspired all of us as well to care more about the issues. So first of all, join me in thanking them, please, with a round of applause. And I shall also thank the Bole Preparatory School for hosting us here today, and our colleagues at UNESCO here in Addis, who've also been arranging all of this. Special call out should go to actually you, Salma. I know you've been in the back organizing all of this. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Well done. Very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.